A few months back, news that the criminal case against Donald Trump in Manhattan was in trouble broke. The prosecution's top two prosecutors resigned in protest because current DA Alvin Bragg, a far-left Democrat, refused to play into their lawfare fantasies of taking a losing case into the courtroom. Later, a sympathetic report from the New York Times exposed just how far they were willing to go in their push for political retribution. They claimed that not charging Trump despite the lack of evidence would put them on, quote, the wrong side of history, while also proclaiming it a, quote, righteous case that ought to be brought, unquote. Now, given the power that prosecutors actually hold, it's scary to think that people like that populate district attorneys' offices across the nation. They can basically ruin your life over a grudge and not even blink. They've done this to several Trump allies. Now, Bragg, despite having run on nuking Trump, recognized that things had gone too far. Still, the grand jury in the case remained impaneled, and several weeks after the resignations, fresh rumbles from the DA's office gave the left new hope. That has now expired, though, with the grand jury ending, no charges being filed, and no reason to think it'll be reconvened. This from the Jeff Bezos-owned Washington Post. A 6-month grand jury that was convened late last year to hear evidence against Donald Trump was set to expire this week, closing a chapter in a lengthy criminal investigation that appears to be fizzling out without charges against the former president. People familiar with the matter said. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Briggs, Democrat, who took office in January, inherited a probe launched by his predecessor, Cyrus R. Vance Jr., who was convinced that there was a case against Trump for crimes related to manipulating the value of property assets to secure tax advantages or better loan rates. Still, the expiration of the grand jury and the departure in February of two senior prosecutors who said Bragg was stalling the inquiry makes any potential indictment of Trump seem unlikely, legal observers have said. By the time Mark Pomerantz and Carrie Doon quit, the grand jury had been inactive for weeks, with jurors being told to stay home, a person with knowledge of the issue previously said. Now, Bragg in fact did try to appease his critics by insisting that other grand juries that are handling other cases could conceivably be called up to charge Trump, but that wouldn't make any sense at this point. You see, if the office indeed did have the goods, they would have used the grand jury impaneled to deal with the specific case against the president. So in short, this is over, and anyone suggesting otherwise needs to find a better coping mechanism. But sure enough, the Palmer Report, a far-left social media presence with 462,000 followers, took to Twitter to do the exact opposite. Now, here's just a little taste of the conspiracy theories being spun to explain away why Trump isn't being frog-marched in handcuffs at all at this point. Number 1. Given the concurrent timing, it seems fairly obvious that the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Briggs' decision to hold off indicting Trump at this time is tied to the endgame we're entering into in New York AG Tisha James' Trump Organization probe. Number 2, and before people start yelling simplistic doomsday things in the replies, yes, Bragg can easily impanel a new grand jury at any time. Letting the current grand jury expire tells us nothing, except that he's not indicting now in all caps. I'll stop there, but you get the point. These absolute hacks are doing everything they can to create wild scenarios in which Trump somehow ends up charged with criminal offenses. Same shit, different day. In this vision of the scenario in liberal loony land, the suggestion is that New York Attorney General Letitia James will somehow take over the prosecution. That's not going to happen, though. You see, in this case, James is pursuing Trump because, of course she is, but she's doing so on civil grounds. If she had any criminal case to bring, she'd have brought it long ago. But of course, there are still other long-shot attempts to put Trump behind bars in places like Georgia, where a local investigation is attempting to show that he tried to force Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger to create fraudulent votes following the 2020 election. But anyone who actually listened to the tape knows that claim is completely and utterly ridiculous. Regardless of all that, the witch hunt in the state of New York is officially done. Still, I'm assured that the walls are closing in. You can only laugh at this point. One thing is for sure, if the wheels of justice put 1% of the effort they've put into Trump into, well, pretty much any Democrat with power, they would have a lot more to work with. Most of this came by way of redstate.com. If you liked it, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Leave a comment down below. There's a PayPal link in the description box, so please put $1 in the bucket on the way out the door. I'd like to thank everyone for all your donations. Much needed and much appreciated. Now, with all that being said, we'll see you next time.
Come on, move. Move. Easy, easy.